A new standoff in Washington now erupting. House Democrats demanding the release of material behind a whistleblower complaint involving President Trump and his communication with a foreign leader. The president firing back, calling the story fake news. I want to bring in our headliner, Trey Gowdy, former House Oversight Committee chair and federal prosecutor, now a Fox News contributor, and welcome to our program. I want you to know that the president is holding what they call a tape spray inside the Oval Office with the Australian Prime Minister. We're going to get a play out of that in a moment here, so we might get interrupted. He's been asked about this whistleblower story, calls it fake news. He seems to suggest that it was a partisan whistleblower, so we'll wait for that comment in a moment here. In the meantime, Andrew McCabe, a man you're quite familiar with, says this whistleblower shows, in his words, great courage. He said this on CNN.
This is someone who essentially did what we hope all people serving in the government will do. They stepped forward, they used the appropriate process in a classified and confidential manner to bring their concerns to the appropriate officials. That takes incredible courage. It is hard to stand up to an administration, to stand up particularly to this administration and this president.
So we just wanted to roll that out and get you to respond. Trey, go ahead.
I doubt Andy McCabe has any idea what the content of that phone call was or how courageous the whistleblower is. Not having access to the facts has never stopped Andy McCabe from expressing an opinion in the past. This is what I do know. I warned people weeks ago that if Adam Schiff continued to be the chairperson of the House Intelligence Committee, who's one of the most deeply partisan members of the House, eventually people would stop sharing information with the Intelligence Committee, and apparently that's what's happened. So if Nancy Pelosi wants this information given to Congress, she should pick a less partisan person to be the chairperson of that committee.
What do you think's going on here with this story?
I think it's a couple of things. I mean, I think Congress has lots of tools to get information from the executive branch. Bill, didn't they just pass a budget resolution this week? I mean, they didn't have to do that. They could have said, you know what, you're not getting your money till we get the whistleblower complaint. I mean, aren't there nominations pending in the Senate? Congress has plenty of tools, but when you put someone who is wrong as often as Adam Schiff is wrong and is as deeply partisan as he is in charge of the Intelligence Committee, then no, you're not going to share confidential information because Adam leaks like a sieve. So that's the consequence of putting someone that partisan as the head of the Intel Committee.
So does McCabe, oddly enough. But, you know, Bill just mentioned this pool spray that we're about to receive, and then we'll show our viewers. But we do have a little bit of some rough notes of what the president said when he was asked about the whistleblower. And I'm going to quote. He says it's a ridiculous story, partisan whistleblower, conversations leaders, always appropriate, highest level. I fight so strongly for the country, just another political hack job. He's talking about how naturally there is nothing wrong with the leader of the free world talking to other leaders of other countries. The question is, was there a promise made? We don't know. So everybody's speculating that a promise was made. There was a whistleblower, but we don't know the facts yet. What do you believe the facts to be here?
No idea, Julie, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I guessed. I mean, I think we got to get to the point in our political culture where we don't speculate. There's a transcript, so we don't have to wonder what was said. I think what does frustrate people is I seem to recall a president who said, I'll have more flexibility in his second term. We don't have to wonder about that. That's on tape. I don't think there was a similar level of outrage when President Obama promised that to the Russian president as there is now, and we don't have any idea what President Trump said.
Let's talk about James Comey now. There's a question as to whether or not he's going to face the possibility of prosecution. Mark Meadows from our show just yesterday on Comey.
The only thing that's been consistent about Director James Comey is his willingness to go after this president. One of the irregularities is that James Comey actually said that nothing that happened actually affected the investigation. And then we see in the Inspector General's report that some of the conversations that he had actually changed the action that he took, specifically trying to leak things to get the special prosecutor installed and called into action.
That leads to the obvious question here once we get the IG's report, which is still, we believe, a few weeks away. Do you believe James Comey will face prosecution? Yes or no?
No. I don't. And I think, again, we are setting the wrong standard in our culture when we say everything's fine unless you're indicted. Comey's been dinged in 2 IG reports. He was found to violate his employment agreement. He leaked classified information to his attorney. Why is all of that not enough for him to be judged poorly by history? Why does it also take an indictment? He's not going to be indicted. So if that's what people expect, they're going to be disappointed. I'd rather set reasonable expectations. He's going to go down in history as a deeply partisan FBI director, and then history can mete out whatever punishment they want, but I don't think he's going to be indicted.
So this is just a stain on someone leading members of the previous administration? Is that where we are in the end?
I think it is, and I think at some level, Bill, that's going to have to be enough. I mean, again, we cannot live in a culture where everything is fine if you narrowly avoid indictment. I just think people have higher expectations for their public servants and their elected officials than for them to go around tweeting, aha, I wasn't indicted. I mean, I just think we ought to have higher expectations. I don't think he's going to be indicted. Look, what did we find out from the Greg Craig case? It's really hard to get a conviction, even if you are indicted. So there has to be a different standard other than prison or nothing.
The Inspector General says that he's going to assess Republicans' allegations. You say you don't think he's going to be indicted. Is there anything that's not being done that you believe should be done? What more needs to be done here?
Yeah, I think my fellow citizens need to have other ways of assigning consequence other than indictment. Michael Horowitz can't indict anyone. So, I mean, let's be really clear about that. The Inspector General can't indict anyone. All he can do is refer the case to the Department of Justice. The same Department of Justice that said President Trump did not commit a crime refused to prosecute Jim Comey. So, at a minimum, we got to be consistent. If Bill Barr was right in his analysis of the obstruction of justice, then is he not also right when he failed to prosecute or declined to prosecute Jim Comey? I mean, we can't like them if they go after our enemies, but not like them if they go after our friends. I mean, that's relativism, and that's not a good thing.
Kimberly Strauss of Wall Street Journal. Mr. Horowitz speaks. Democrats talk a lot about their dedication to oversight and truth, and the media keep promising not to let democracy die in darkness. This week's tale of 2 hearings proves otherwise. She was contrasting in that piece the difference between Horowitz's hearing and Corey Lewandowski a day prior.